Do you think the fact that now Newcastle though are 7 points ahead of Spurs with a game in hand, they're third as well? How difficult is it that they keep their mind focused on what they've got to achieve and they don't start thinking the job is done? We're starting to see now more in interviews. We saw against against Everton afterwards, Callum Wilson was asked about it and he was saying, well, the games are running out, and we're starting to hear players talk more about it. Kieran Trippier saying we shouldn't be afraid to mention it. But I'm just wondering how you think Eddie Howe's feeling when he hears or sees these players say stuff like that, because is the focus starting to shift slightly, or because Newcastle are doing so well, there is that points gap and games are running out, the season's coming to an end. Is it all right to start talking about it?
Of course it is. It's all right because it's going to happen. And it's no good denying it's going to happen. What are you going to do? Go into the second last home game with a 8-point lead over somebody and say, well, we're almost there. Of course it's all right. Though. They would be stupid. Do any of us think for one moment that Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier and Bruno have never thought about playing in the Champions League next year? That it's a total surprise to them if it happens, that they don't feel they're one step closer. It is Eddie Howe's job to keep a lid on the thing, and there's no doubt that he'll be banging on every day and saying, look, don't trip over your shoelaces. The only way Newcastle don't make the Champions League now is that they themselves stop themselves by being complacent. I don't worry about that for one moment. I think that's the last problem this football club has got because of the people that's inside the dressing room and inside the coaching room. I don't think it's a problem at all. And I think it's realistic. If you go to a player to interview him and he says, well, I don't even think if the Champions League, you would look him in the eyes and say, are you for real? Are you telling a little fibby here to Gibbo? And he would be telling a little fibby to Gibbo. Of course they're thinking of it because it's going to happen. But just because they're thinking of it doesn't mean they'll be complacent. Do you know what? If you channel the thought that you're 2 steps off the Champions League, if you channel that into active action, you go out on Sunday to steamroller them. You go out and say, wait, I've got what I never thought I could have this season, and nobody's going to take that away from me. Nobody's going to take that away from me. And I think it puts more steel down your backbone than if you just say, well, we'll take it game by game and we'll hope we'll get the right result on Sunday. And then, goodness gracious, we don't know who we're playing next, but we can look it up now. Oh, it's another home game. No, no. If when you're this close and you've worked blood and sweat to get here, then I think being this close puts a rod down your back and makes you even more determined that it'll happen. I'm real cool over the attitude of the run-in. Absolutely.
Well, it's all about mentality, isn't it? And on the view from the opposition for the Everton game, Connor from the Liverpool Echo asked me about the mentality shift at Newcastle. And it was a bit about we've discussed previously, John, about the Newcastle United fan of old always thinking they're going to mess it up somehow. Even now, the tiniest part of me as a fan is thinking they're going to mess this up and we'll be playing Europa League football next season, which would still be a great achievement. But at this point, we won Champions League football. But the majority of me looks at that team and thinks they've got the right mentality. They know Southampton are going to come up on Sunday and be as low as you can possibly be, but you can never underestimate a team in the Premier League. We saw what they did against Arsenal. Had Che Adams been an inch the other way, he would have got them a point. And their
But he wasn't an inch the other way.
No, but what I'm saying is it's small margins, and them getting a point changes how they're feeling about Sunday, perhaps, even though Newcastle are running wild over teams. And my point being is that despite the fact they've only won one in the last 10, Southampton, despite the fact they can't really score goals, they can't stop conceding goals, and the fact they're pretty much nailed on to go down, that doesn't matter to Eddie Howe and his squad and Newcastle United, because what the message will be you need to be at the top of your game no matter what, and do not underestimate the opponents, because at the end of the day, they're Premier League footballers, and it only takes one mistake, one moment of absolute beauty for Southampton to get a goal, and the game could be away from Newcastle, and I think they've got the right mentality to avoid slipping up on Sunday.
Without a shadow of doubt, I thoroughly understand where you come from. A lot of Newcastle fans, and I've had it with respect longer than you, simply because of age. This feeling that Newcastle are going nowhere and going nowhere fast, and they right at the last minute, everything's going to go into a mess. We've lived through 74, 76, 98, 99 cup finals, all lost, and this season's lost. So yes, Newcastle fans have had enough slaps to feel that. But having had all those slaps, I don't feel like that anymore. Not with this team. The last time I felt like this was with not even that little
Not even a little bit.
No, I did a little while back, but no, I did around the time when we lost 3 games on the trot, 2-0, and one of them was the cup final. That period, I felt, oh dear, please do not give. We haven't got the trophy we wanted. We've just lost 2 games, 2-0 in the league. Please not let that banana skin that we're stepping on it. But since looking at the team closely, looking at the attributes, scoring goals all over the park, in the main, keeping the defence tight. Yes, we let in a goal a game. I think we've kept 1 clean sheet in the last 11, but we don't let in outside of Villa a shipload. In above all, the attitude of the players and of the manager, I don't have doubts about them. I really don't have doubts about them. And I used to remember Joe Harvey, and we all talk about Kevin Keegan and we all talk about Bobby Robson, but the last manager to actually win things for Newcastle United was Joe Harvey. And when he was asked about the opposition, he used to say, "Listen, Gibbo, if we get it right, we'll be okay. Let them worry about us. If we get it right, we'll be okay. We've got to get it right. And they'll worry about us." Now, on Sunday, if we get it right, we win. Doesn't matter what they do. If we get it right, we win. And I look at the fixtures. In the hard games, before we got to this stage, Andrew, if you looked at the fixtures and you saw Arsenal and Brighton, you would say, oh, whoops, it is. Wait a minute. And not only that, but you've got Everton fighting for their lives, Southampton fighting for their life, Leeds fighting for their lives, etc., etc. But you would look and you would say, Arsenal, oh dear. Brighton, oh dear. Chelsea, oh dear. You know what? Arsenal's gone completely off the boil. When did the last win? They had 3 draws and then got cuffed Man City. So they're not going to be easy. By Jove, they're not. But it's the right time to meet them. Brighton have suffered the awful agony of losing a semi-final of an FA Cup on penalties, and then consequently the next league game they lose again. And we're playing Arsenal and Brighton at home, and we've got Chelsea away on the last day. I mean, Frank Lampard can't buy a win in the local charity shop. I mean, he's 5 matches as manager of Chelsea and 5 defeats. So we're playing the 3 biggest sides at the best time, and we can take care of the teams at the bottom. We took care of Everton. We'll take care of Southampton. And does Leicester or Leeds frighten you?
More Leeds and Leicester, just in terms of what they're fighting for. And I know people will say, well, Southampton are fighting for the same thing, but I think there's more about Leeds and more about Leicester than there is Southampton.
Andrew, yeah, at the top of Everest, my son, you're in rarefied air. Open your lungs, sniff it all in, and enjoy it while it's happening. This is a new world, and this is a world you're going to have to get used to.
I'm just wary. I'm just wary of thinking we can beat everybody. I'm just wary. I just need to keep the feet on the ground because I don't know. It still just doesn't feel right. As good as they've been, a little part of me just thinks I'm going to wake up in a second. It's still going to be Steve Bruce and Mike Ashley.
Now, come on. Now, there's no need for that. This podcast is going very, very well. There's no need to bring us down to earth. I know where you're coming from, but we can if we lose another match between now and the end of the season, we'll still be in the Champions League. providing we're winning the rest of them. I'm not suggesting we're going to win every match between now and the end of the season. There'll
Well,
be a draw.
it did sort of sound like you were going. I was going to say it did sound like you were kind of going for maximum points till the end of the season.
I'm not saying that's impossible. Well, not maximum points, unbeaten run to the end of the season. I'm not saying that's impossible. But I'm also saying to people like yourself and me in the old, I've felt exactly like you for donkey's years. We can afford to lose and draw against somebody, and providing we win the rest, we will still be in the Champions League next season. So, it's not tricky. You look at people like Liverpool and people saying we've got to win every game to have any chance of getting in the Champions League. You listen to Arsenal who say we've got to win every game to have any chance of being crowned champions. We don't have to win every game to get into the Champions League. We've done the damage. We've won 7 of the last 8, for goodness sake. If you're not feeling comfortable now, my son, you should do 7 out of 8, 10 goals in the last 2 games, 5 scored at West Ham, 6 scored against Spurs, 4 scored at Everton. You just sit down and keep thinking about that instead of worrying, and you'll feel 10 foot tall, mate. You'll feel as big as Dan Burn.